Hey, stranger.
Oh, hello from a different time zone.
I
And
know. I'm glad you finally got it right what time zone I'm in.
I you'd
I
think
could
after
show up
like
on time.
right after 4 or 5 years of having to deal with time zones and having like every single co-host that I have in a different time zone, you think I'd figure it out? No.
I'll tell you,
Um
I was taking it personal. I told Handsome Hubby, I said, he obviously does not want me to show up on his 13th drawer thing and say hi because he keeps telling me the wrong time.
it's so far from the
I
truth though. I
got
felt
the
so bad.
message. Got the message. That's
I felt so bad. Um yeah, we'll get that right. We'll get that right. It's not like, you're in England, which is like 5 hours ahead. You're like an hour behind.
I know. See, in my real world, I work at a Finland company. I have US time and Finnish time
Oh, see,
up
I like that.
because
Yeah.
it's too much for me to try to figure it out.
I really should hang like four clocks down the side here and just have like Eastern, Central,
Uh-huh.
and then I'm gonna call it Mike time, like brew crime time,
Right.
and then England time. And then that way it's just always there.
I think you
Um,
should. It helps a
yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
It helps a
I'll
lot
put them.
because it is almost 5 a.m. in Finland right now.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. By the way, who
It,
are you?
oh, hi. I'm JT.
Hi.
That's
And
who I am.
I am Terry. And I have to tell you, I lied this week to a
Uh-oh.
child. She goes, "What's your name, Miss Terry?" I said, "What did you say?" She goes, "What's your name, Miss Terry?" I said, "Oh, my name's Tiffany." She goes, "Okay, Miss Tiffany."
I love kids.
I was
Uh,
like, "You just said my name." So,
you know,
guys, I'm now Tiffany.
you are now Tiffany, just like your brand,
That's
Tiffany,
right. Yeah.
right? Um, I was gonna say that the thing that I really like about kids is just their innocence and gullibleness. Like
Oh,
that's fun. However, we've all been around the past 3 or 4 years. Adults are pretty gullible too.
I was fixing to say, I really don't think the adults have an excuse.
No, no,
So
not
I don't
anymore. No.
know how. I'm going to be honest. I don't know how is happening. It is the
Yeah,
best gaslighting ever that has happened in the universe.
it truly is. It is just like the atomic bomb of gaslighting. But here we are, and there they are, and this is this is it.
Well, I have to say, I'm excited about our topic today, but
Yes,
I also think a couple of interesting things have happened in the real world.
yes,
38 indictments against a certain person for
yes.
espionage. It was
Oh, yes.
37. They took it up one. And then Ted Krasinski decided he no longer was going to bless us with his presence on this earth.
Yeah, you know, um, I was mentioning this beforehand. Two things. I think he finally realized that he wasn't blessing anybody. Um, and then also he really set the bar high for manifestos, and nothing's really met it since.
He did.
Um,
Now, H said something funny. He goes, or could it have been that Donald Trump gets all the attention and he no longer gets any attention?
well,
So he was
maybe.
like, I'm out.
But he's also been getting a lot of the attention for like 5 years. So
I was like,
there's that. I mean, it's uh it's interesting because I feel like everything that Ted Kaczynski put in his manifesto, people back then were like, that's terrible and stupid. And now people are like, well, he might have had a point
yeah.
about technology and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously not going the violent side, but the technology
Right.
side. And so that's he's an interesting character. He is very complex.
He
Um,
is.
uh,
And I think, I mean, I know they've done documentaries. I know he's talked to some people, profilers and things that I've heard about over
mhm.
the years, but I often wonder how truthful was he really? Because he is an interesting specimen that if we could truly understand his mind, it could help in so
Oh
many
yeah.
ways because the man's not stupid.
No, 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 not at all. Not at all, not at all. Um, and it's really interesting because a lot of times I feel like you can kind of appease or appeal to that neurosis or the psychosis that they have, the narcissism at the very
Mhm.
least, and get them to start talking, which then you can kind of deduce some things that would help. Um, but I don't really think that many people did it. Did they with him?
I, I know, and there I go. That'll be good for outtakes. Um, I just remember reading something years ago that
Yeah.
he agreed to speak to one specific person from the FBI behavioral group, but he was playing them.
See,
So
yeah,
I
I'm not
don't know
surprised.
if they ever went and did it again
Yeah.
or
I think
not.
what what they needed to do, Ted always thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. And honestly, he probably is most of the time. He's a smart guy. In terms of like just raw intelligence. What they
Right.
needed to do was they needed to put somebody in there with him that was either at or above his level. And I think, to a point where not where he feels like he is inferior, but to a point where he is wanting to brag to that
Right.
person
Be
to then get them
braggadocious.
to, yes, exactly, to recognize him because he has no reason to brag if he's the best person in the room with an FBI agent, right? There's no reason they should be looking up to me, right? So I don't know.
Why I can't
I'm not a
brag when I'm in the
specialist.
room anytime because, I'm always the best person in the room,
Well, that's
especially
obvious.
when I'm the only person in the room.
Well, I do like to be dancing with myself. So, there's a reason why. That's a Billy Idol, isn't it? Isn't that Billy Idol? Dancing with myself? No.
And with
Joker.
myself, I can hear it in my head, but
Yes, it's
yeah.
Billy Idol. Yes, I
Nice
had it.
job. See,
Ah,
Billy Idol, White Wedding is the only thing that ever comes to mind.
that's fair though. I mean, other than Dancing with Myself and White Wedding. But I never really got into Billy, so there's that.
I was never a Billy fan either. So that's all that. So I have come and done a little stalking on your latest gig. For those of you on Patreon who get to see our video, he can hold up that cup again and share a little bit about
Yeah.
yours and Brandy's amazing project.
We It happened really fast.
I've heard that
In
about
in
you.
that was that was so well done. I'm not even going to argue it because that I would be protesting too much. Um, but no, Brandy was looking for somebody to help her with a podcast, and I said, "Well, I've done that before, and I've produced stuff before and consulted on one." And so I was like, "I would love to help you. That would be fine." And then there was the discussion of us co-hosting it, and then she was like, "Well, what would you think if we did trials?" I was like, well, I've live streamed once. I've done one of those once, and it was with
Mhm.
Paige from Reverie True Crime.
Right.
And I was like, but I could figure it out as we go.
Mhm.
And then so we did the first one. We did the first night, and we started out with a Lori Vallow trial, doing the
I,
daily trials,
right.
um, which was very challenging because there was no visual, right? It was all
Right. It was
audio.
all
So
audio.
that was a big hurdle right off the bat. But we created graphics and tried to keep
Mhm.
it interesting for everybody. And it seemed to work, and people came and enjoyed the chat. I mean, the community, right? I am convinced now. Like, I love what Brandy and I have in terms of when we interact with each other on camera, but then also when we do our own thing. So I like that, but I also like the fact that the community has become like a basically an avalanche or a snowball that's rolling down a hill. and people are starting to come for the community. They
Oh,
enjoy what we do, but they're coming to talk to each other. And
I have to
that's
say,
huge.
it's huge. So, as you know, I popped in the first time. It's probably 2 weeks now since I've had some crazy going on in life. And once
Sure.
y'all just said who I was and that I was in the room, so many people said hello, asked me
Yeah.
questions, sent me messages. I mean, I was like, oh my God, it was just amazing. And the other thing I liked, the intelligent conversations that were happening. That even I remember somebody said, they're like, I'm not dumb, but what is that? Nobody came for them and said, oh, stupid, how did you not know that? Which you see on so many other things. Oh, it's
Yeah.
this. And it's only been used, in the last, and they were just kind about it and
Yeah.
wanted to help each other. And I was like, that's rare when you get into those situations.
It is very rare, and I'm very grateful to the community, but also to the moderators that we have because they do a really good job shaping kind of the group. And you get your trolls. You're always going to get your trolls,
Yeah.
but we have like an entire system in terms of like you delete their message, then
Right.
you give them a warning, then you give them like a directed warning in the chat, and then they're timed out, right? And so as long as we keep that consistent across the board, no matter who you are, then we can fall back on this is what our process is, and it's written out. So of course, I've written this stuff out because
Mm-hmm.
the more documentation we have, the easier it is to be like, no, we were not pinpointing you. And we haven't had anybody do that, and everybody seems to
Boundaries
appreciate, yes.
are healthy.
And our mods work
SOPs
tirelessly.
are
So,
required to be success. I mean, you
yes.
need SOPs to be successful. I need you to
Yep.
add one thing to your SOPs for me. Anything Terry True Crime says is
Uh-huh.
okay, and she is not to be deleted or sent to the
Is
corner.
okay. And not to put baby in a corner.
That's right.
I literally wrote it down. Um, no, I created the two, well, correction, our bailiffs who are like our team leads,
Mm-hmm.
they helped me to create a 2-page document, which gives some roles and gives some teamwork and gives some
Mm-hmm.
general guidelines, which are fleshed out as we go, of course, because we're learning as we go. And that plus the form to sign up for teams and then the signature acknowledging that you read the form, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
attestation is 9/10 of the law. Because,
Right.
I'm very uncomfortable with myself, the fact that I think like this now. But that being said, our mods are awesome. They work hours a day sometimes and for nothing, just because they like the channel. And I can't, they're so intelligent and caring. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just amazing to work with them every single day. So,
Well, y'all have a special chemistry. So we got to put
yeah,
it that because not all partnerships are great.
no,
They're
no,
not,
no,
but
not
y'all
all of them.
have y'all secret sauce. It works.
it,
It
it
works.
does.
And
It
now I
does.
will
And
say, I felt a little uncomfortable during the Jodi Arias, I don't know how you say her name, Arias
Eric,
trial.
yeah.
The hot medical examiner guy.
Oh yeah. Mr. Strongjaw.
Oh my God. When I finally let off, I went in there and handsome hubby, he goes, what's the matter? He goes, you're blushing. I'm like, oh my God. He was talking graphic stuff, but it was so hot. And he was like, you're weird. I'm like, no, it was his voice, his looks. It wasn't the words. And he's like, you have a problem.
Well, we started when we did Vallow, we started running into these guys who were detectives or police officers who have like really low voices, right? The
Mm-hmm.
narrator voice, right? And all of a sudden people were like calling them trial daddies. And so we went from there to creating a calendar for the trial daddies. So there's an entire calendar for the trial daddies. Have you not seen this?
Where do I find this?
So we have our website, which is 13thjuror.live, which I can show you now.
Oh, I'm pulling it up.
And I'm just assuming that the screen share will show for our Patreon
It
people.
will.
Um, so like scrolling down to hot cops and trial daddies.
Okay, see,
And
I didn't even
so
know there was a website. I've just been doing the stuff on the YouTube channel.
Mr.
Oh, oh yeah, he's from Murdaugh. Yeah.
He's the guy. He started it.
So I have a problem with him.
This guy?
Uh-huh.
What about him?
His lips are too perfect.
Oh, well, no.
No, his lips be fine. And oh, that hair, you could just run your fingers in
Oh,
it.
I know. That's Matthew Harris Law. He's in our calendar and Weather Watch.
Oh,
Uh,
wow. Okay,
uh,
that is amazing.
yeah. So like, not only do we have these, but like on the website, you can actually submit trial daddies too. So if you scroll down, you can submit the trial daddies,
Oh,
and we've now got something for everybody. We're still building it, but we've got trial mamas now.
oh,
Um, so Camille
Abby.
Vasquez,
Oh,
Helen Pott,
I don't know her.
Dr. Shannon Curry,
Yeah, she's just phenomenal.
Jen Doro.
I
Yeah.
don't know
So,
her.
things are growing, things are
Nice.
building. Um,
Now, are we going to add pups? Because there's
you
peppers
know,
and a lot of things.
that's something that really kind of pushed me into being like, this community's awesome, is because when we were listening to Vallow, I said, we're going to go through some hard testimony today. Why doesn't Brandy had posted, why don't everybody just post pictures of your dogs, your cats, whatever makes you happy? And I ended up with like a 60 photo slideshow. And so
See,
while that was happening, we were playing that too. And, it, some people could look at it as being really weird to juxtapose the two.
no,
However, if you're listening to an autopsy of a
a
young
service
person,
animal is a good thing.
yeah, it is. And it's not just as good as in person, but what it does is it works wonders. And so um the entire crew really liked it. So Lori Vallow was great. It was a great start. It was challenging, but I'm glad we did challenging first. But our schedule's changed, but now it's consistent where Brandy streams every single day during day court. And then I do Monday, Wednesday, Fridays at 8:45 for night court. And then every other Sunday we have our WTF show, which is just a lot of fun at 8:30. And then the alternative Sunday, I'm now releasing sidebars. So the series is called Sidebar, and it's one-shot cases. So it's like 40 minutes to like an hour and a half, depending on what the case is. And there's visuals now and movie kind of images and stuff, which is fun. It's nifty to do. And yeah, so I think that's gonna just kind of keep going. It's worked out. The formula's worked.
No, that is good. So you need to look at the case. It's called the Blue Eyed Butcher. It was one of my first cases when I
Mm.
started my podcast. Susan Wright, the prosecutor from Harris County, Texas, the
Hmm.
court stuff is amazing. She took it. I'm not going to give a lot of details if you want to go listen to that episode. Let's
Hmm.
just say she brought the theatrics into the courtroom and
Really?
reenacted some. It
Oh my
was
gosh.
one of the first.
If her entire trial's on, then
Yeah, you'll have to look, but I mean
I'll have to find it.
it be cray cray.
Well, I've
But
got
yeah,
a good
Susan
list
Wright.
of like that's something that I love doing is, when we came up with the idea of night court and doing throwback trials,
Mm-hmm.
that's something I love. You know me. I mean, I really like
Right.
that stuff. And so Jodi Arias was a good, bad, good first trial for that. And I'm excited because this is going to come out afterwards, but we're interviewing Kirk Nurmi, who was her defense attorney.
Right.
And so that's going to be a lot of fun. Um, and nerve-wracking, but fun. He seems like a really great guy. I've been watching a lot of his videos and stuff. He's really kind of turned his life around health-wise and then just outlook-wise, and especially after the lawsuit with Jodi, etc. So, um,
Nice. Well, I'm
yeah.
excited.
Anyways,
And I do have tonight, I decided to go with champagne,
ooh,
good old fashioned champagne, because I needed the bubbles. And
mm,
I ordered glitter because you now have edible glitter you can put in your champagne,
right.
and the bubbles make it sparkle more.
Oh,
And when I opened the container, the dog came in. and
Oh
startled
no.
me, and I dropped it and it went all over my floor, and then the dog licked it. So I'm sure tomorrow when I do poop a scoop in my yard, it's going to be very pretty.
Oh my gosh, you can convince the little that a unicorn showed up.
I mean, we're talking the entire container. It's going to be sparkly in
Oh
my backyard.
no. So is edible glitter much like just regular glitter and that it literally does get everywhere, or is there like a different consistency so it's a little easier
It's it's
to
like a
handle?
really fine powder.
Oh God.
So in
Oh.
some ways, it's even worse.
Oh.
Like I literally thank God he was licking my tile floor because I was going to have to mop it because after he ate all of it, it was still shimmery. Almost,
Oh,
I know
jeez.
you may or may not know this. It's almost like when you put bronzer on your face and it just kind of
Oh yeah.
shifted. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that on my tile floor.
I mean, you basically vajazzled your floor.
I did. So next time I'm going to order some more and I'm going to keep it in my office.
Do you have carpet in your office? Because now I'm worried.
No, I have tile. Well, I have area rugs too, but at least
Yeah,
then I
okay.
could vacuum it up. But if the dog
That's
doesn't
fair.
hit me, I won't drop it and spill it.
Ideally, yes. Yes. Oh
So,
man, that's my worst nightmare.
yeah.
Just
So, luckily, HH was home, or he would have been
right.
wondering what kind of party I had. He'd been like, where were the dancers?
Right?
Speaking of dancers, I
Oh
am
God.
very excited about this episode. We are
Yes.
recording a little later than we normally. We're normally a little bit more ahead, but we
It's
pushed
my
an
fault.
episode. Well, no, we have an episode recorded. We're
Well, we
just
do.
pushing it so that we could do something special for Pride Month, just because of
Yes.
all of the BS shit going on with Target and Bud Light. And I'm just over it. And I
Humanity.
posted on my Instagram that celebrating Pride Month is not necessarily about just celebrating the differences. It's about letting a child know it's
Yes.
okay and it's better than being dead.
Right. Yeah. Good God, yes. I um I wrote I wrote a s- I wrote a post. Let me see if I can find it here.
Oh,
Oh yes. So like, you know, I've got family friends a long time and they live in Florida because of course they do. And it's they're a
that's
little on the opposite spectrum as me. And they posted something that had said basically was complaining about having to, not only teach kids about the birds and the bees, but the bees and the bees and the birds and blah 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 and why is life so complicated now? And you know, the post itself is a pain in the butt, but then you're inviting comments that are very hurtful, like stupid world now shouldn't have to, so dumb, this is ridiculous. The world hasn't changed. LGBTQIA plus have been here all
uh-huh.
along. You just happen to care all of a sudden because somebody told you to.
Right.
But like, I wrote like, why don't we just teach kids to be genuine to themselves and be kind to one another and love and accept one another, not to judge based on who someone else loves. I mean, it's not a new concept to love somebody or care about somebody, and it's even a Christian one, believe it or not.
Believe it or not,
Um,
it is.
and no child complained about the state of the world, right? This thing, the state of the
Right.
world. And no child's complained currently about the state of the world other than to say it's pretty effed up and it needs fixed. And it needs to be more than just accepting. And then also other than to say that guns have more rights than people a lot of the time, and they're the leading cause of death in children now. I'm not saying that they're an issue. We need some laws.
Right.
And you know, my the problem is that these folks are trying to tell kids what kindness is, but what they're telling them is that it's conditional, and that's a
Mhm.
problem. And I don't find it reasonable. And people really need to kind of get their shit together.
It's it's conditional, but it's also I will only love you if you think the same way I think or
Oh
feel the
yeah,
same way I think. So that's a problem. because we're not Stepford wives. Do we really want to live in a society where we all think the exact same way? We all look the same? Because let me tell you, it would be pretty boring.
There are some folks out there we've heard recently that really wish we all did look the same. Um,
Yeah.
but it's it's just one of those things where, like, last year, one of the highlights of my life was taking my kids to a day of Pride, right? Here
Mm-hmm.
in the city. And their only response back to me after they left, they had a great time. I had a great
Right.
time. We all had a great time. Their only question when we left was, what language were those folks speaking? There were no other questions.
That was
Not
it.
why was that gentleman in a dress, or were those guys or gals, or why were they together, or none of that. It was, what language were they speaking? They had a fantastic time. They saw a lot of different stuff. Um and not inappropriate stuff.
Right.
I don't find it inappropriate, but that was the only question they had. And that was like one of the highlights of my life, I
But you
think.
know why? Because kids are better people than we are.
They really are.
I mean,
Um
they're
yeah.
not as judgmental as we are. They are, like with my granddaughter, I'll never forget one day I was like, so which friend are you talking about? The girl in the yellow shirt. Okay, well, I wasn't at school with you, sweetheart. I don't know if
Right.
she was wearing a yellow shirt. Can you give me a little more detail? And so she goes, oh, well, her favorite color is red. She likes to sit next to me in the cafeteria, and she has that real curly, curly hair. I was like, I'm going to need a little bit more. But what I loved is I have friends whose kids and grandkids, they'll say, oh, you remember, or oh, my black friend. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa, whoa. Why did we go
Yeah.
there? Or they say, my peach colored friend. And I'm like, I haven't met any of those. What are you talking about? But I love that my granddaughter is telling me about the person, what her favorite color is, that she
Right.
likes to sit next to me. And I wish adults could be that way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Now, listen, I don't advocate for color blindness,
No,
because I think
absolutely
that that's
not.
the opposite, right? But I do think that we need to focus on what makes a person that person. What are their likes? What are their dislikes? What are their, you know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
and
Like if you described me,
yeah.
oh, she loves pink and she believes she bleeds pink blood. That
Mhm.
describes me. It's good. And
I
I try
love
to be
it.
kind.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, and like, Matt, I came in from work one day and Matthew happened to be home with Carrie, and Carrie was painting her nails, and Matthew was like, paint my nails too. And so I came in and Matthew was rocking the nail polish, all of it like blue. And he went to his daycare like that. He walks around like that.
See?
He loves it. I love it. I wear nail polish too every now and again. So it's just, in fact, I just ordered a cool nail polish. It's black and shimmery, and it's an Adam Lambert part of that collection, and I'm so excited to try it. Um, anyways,
But
I
no, I
just
mean, it's a even handsome hubby has let my granddaughter paint his nails.
there
And he
there's
wore it for several days.
right there's
And I
there
was
is nothing
like,
in this world that says nail polish is just for one or the, you know what I mean?
no,
Mm,
I agree. Well, so I guess, we kind of said we're doing Pride Month. I know we each did a little bit different on our cases. And I'm kind of excited about yours.
yeah.
So you get to go first today.
I I had not I didn't know a lot about my topic. Which is weird because it's kind of the starting point in a lot of different things for I guess advocacy, activism, and
Mhm.
pride. And so mine is the Stonewall riots, which is a turning point in LGBTQIA plus history. And it wasn't so, and I think I mentioned this in the script, but I want to say that it wasn't like the fulcrum where everything shifted. Things were happening before that. This just happens to be generally as loud and proud and recognized as what happened to kind of push pride events forward. So, um, if you're ready, I can get into it.
I am ready because I have to be so open as I like to be. I did not go and research it or read it before recording.
Well, I'm yeah. There's a lot that happened. There's a lot of aftermath in terms of positive. So I I think there are moments in history where you just know something special is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of moments in which you just know something good is going on and something amazing is going to come out of it. And, while the Stonewall riots had some violence associated and some hatred and a lot of other stuff, they were a series of protests that took place in June 1969 in New York City. And these riots were led by members of the LGBTQ plus community. And these protests are widely considered to be the turning point for rights in the U.S. and around the world. And so the riots, which have also been called the Uprising, Rebellion, or just Stonewall, were a collection of protests in response to a police raid that took place on June 28th, 1969, at what was called the Stonewall Inn. So let's not delay any longer. Let's get into this and set the stage, shall we?
Let's do it.
Um, so I think it's safe to say that the 50s and 60s weren't very accepting of anyone who wasn't in the mainstream in terms of beliefs, who they loved, what they practiced. Um, and honestly, I'd argue today, thanks to some stuff going on, and by that I mean everything going on, we've taken steps backwards. And it's disheartening, but we can still do stuff about it, which is good. Um, there were very few places in the 50s and 60s that welcomed gay people at all. And something that I didn't know was that the places that did welcome gay people were usually run by organized crime, like the mafia. I don't know if you were aware of this.
No.
I was not. I was not. Um, I guess it makes sense since it's illegal to have a gay bar at that point. Organized crime might run it. But not only was the culture homophobic, but so was the justice and legal system. So there was no winning, and it's just not good. And despite that, and in the spirit of the 60s, social political movements increased their activity. The counterculture, anti-Vietnam War protests, and more all led to what became the Stonewall riots, and it made it possible for it to happen. Ooh, it always gets me talking about this stuff. So in 20th century United States, we were working through the devastation of World War II. And when something so terrible occurs, a group of people kind of seek comfort in the familiar. And for the US, it was kind of whatever predated the war. Any changes coming were basically going to be held off for the foreseeable future. It's like we just can't handle one more thing right now. We're just going to stick to what we know and we're comfortable with.
Sometimes that's a coping mechanism.
Oh yeah. Oh, I think it is the nation's coping mechanism. I think that's what we do. When 9/11 happened, we sat back on patriotism. It's what we were comfortable with. It's what we knew. Now, we quickly forgot that we were all one nation, but that's what we said. That's what we kind of rested on. But like overall, you can't just hold things off, and that's not how it works. Change comes whether you want it to or not, and it's kind of it's how you handle it and respond to it, right? Not to lecture. So the Stonewall Inn was a gay bar located in Greenwich Village, New York City. And at the time, being gay was illegal in New York, and the police frequently raided gay bars, arresting and harassing the patrons. The Stonewall Inn was no exception. In fact, it was raided by the police on June 28th, 1969, which led to those Stonewall riots. So describing the Stonewall Inn, wow. It would not get a good Yelp review today. Bless you.
I hit mute at least.
You did. And then I called it out anyways. Look at me. I stink. Noob mistake, JT.
I appreciate you saying bless me because sometimes people just ignore you when you sneeze. So I appreciate you calling me out.
Oh, thanks. Sometimes I say bless your face.
Oh,
I don't know why.
I like
I mean,
that.
because really bless all of you, but bless your face. So the Stonewall Inn was located at 51 and 53 Christopher Street, and it was owned by the Genovese crime family. And three members of the mafia in 1966 had invested 3,500 to turn Stonewall Inn into a gay bar, and it was a restaurant and nightclub. Originally, it was a restaurant and nightclub for heterosexuals. Um, and Genovese, I didn't look into the Genovese family, but I know I've heard that name many times. I'm pretty sure that was a pretty big mafia family.
Yeah.
Uh, so police officers for Stonewall and other gay bars collected payoffs so that the inn wouldn't be raided. On top of that, Stonewall didn't have a liquor license either, hence the payoffs. There also was no running water behind the bar. Dirty glasses were run through tubs of water and used right after. There were
Okay.
no fire exits. Toilets would overrun, run over, clog, whatever you want to call it. Um, Black market activities took place at the Stonewall Inn, but and I know that a lot of people would focus on just those small things that were going wrong, but
Uh-huh.
overwhelmingly, right? But overwhelmingly, it was a place for gay people to be themselves. And dancing was the biggest draw, and it was known as the gay bar in New York City. And despite some of that other stuff, if you don't have another place to go and this is the place, to find people like then you're gonna kind of put up with a lot of stuff. And see, that's the mafia families knew that. They
Right.
knew that. So they put very little money into it, but pulled a lot of money out of it, right?
That's their
Um,
that's their business plan.
it is their business plan. Uh, so police raids were pretty common, like I said. They usually happened around once a month per bar. Usually management would know ahead of time because of tips, and the raids would happen earlier in the evening, so that helped out. When raids happened, the lights turned on, everybody was lined up. They had their IDs checked, and those without IDs or those in drag were just straight up arrested. Others could leave. Um, women were required to wear 3 pieces of feminine clothing, and if they weren't, they would be arrested.
Hold on. What is considered
Yeah,
feminine pieces of feminine clothing?
it's very subjective, isn't it?
It is. I'm like, what is that?
Right? Right? I don't know. I mean, I guess
Okay.
it's up to the police. I guess it's up to that one person that one day and how
Yeah.
they felt.
Okay.
Um,
That's not a problem at all.
right. So and there were some I'll mention a little more in terms of what these were, but on top of um on top of that, right before the riots, raids grew more frequent. And there was a raid, you know, just a week before the riots at Stonewall. And in addition, clubs in Greenwich Village were closing down due to the raids because people wouldn't go back. They wouldn't go back for the fear of being arrested. And so the mafia owners, on top of that, were blackmailing the wealthy customers, probably because wealthy people would come into the Stonewall Inn to be themselves. And
Right.
they would blackmail them saying, "We saw you here and we will let everybody know." So they were making more money from the extortion than the actual liquor sales.
So it wasn't
uh,
really a safe place that they were touting it to be. They wanted you to come
no,
here, put money in, and then let me blackmail you where you thought you
yeah,
could be with like-minded people. Okay.
I think by today's standards, it was most assuredly not. It was definitely a very scary place. I would imagine by today's standards, it was not a place that you'd probably find yourself willingly going to. But at that point, if you don't have anywhere at all, and you can tell how desperate people were to find a community
Right.
because the wealthy and influential people were traveling all the way to Greenwich Village
Yeah.
to go. Um, but the problem was that because they were making more money from the extortion than the liquor sales, eventually police couldn't get their money or kickbacks. And so they decided it was time to close the inn permanently with one big raid. So let's kind of go through what happened with the riots. Hopefully, I've kind of given enough, maybe too much background information.
No,
I have a
I
tendency to
love
do
it.
that. Um, Also, if I get anything wrong, y'all are more than welcome to let me know. I like learning new things, so
And where do they
let me
find
know.
you at?
anywhere that says JT Brews crime, really. Honestly, you'll find me if you search that at this
He
point.
gets around,
I
guys. He's
can't.
real easy to find.
I'm real easy to find. I live up to my last name. End of story. So there it is. I was waiting for it to smack you in the forehead. Have I've never made that joke with you?
You have, but it
Have I
caught me
never?
off. You have, but it caught
Oh,
me off
oops.
guard today. Caught me a little off guard. Okay.
Um, in college it was a different way that I lived up to my last name, but this time it's podcasts and social media. I'm just all over the place. That is a ball gag, is what that is.
It's a stress ball.
On the other side is a whip, and okay. Acceptance. I don't judge.
Hey, as long as it's consensual, you do you.
As long as it's consensual and doesn't include children or animals, go for it. I know that was a given. I just wanted to add add that on there. I
That's
don't want
true.
anybody
It's got to be
like,
consensual, and you must be over the age of 18.
yes.
And you have to have 2 legs and 2 arms, not 4 legs, not 3 legs.
Yes. You could have one less. You could have one arm or
Yeah,
one
you could have one
leg.
arm and one leg.
That would be fine.
Just
Or none.
Homo sapiens,
Whatever.
consensual, over 18. I think I covered
There's
it
no
all.
good way this is going to end.
Okay, I'm just going to go back to continue, sir.
All right. So we're going to talk about what happened at the riots. It was a crappy time for those in the community, and it was violent, it was hateful, it was vengeful, just terrible. So that, on top of financial stuff, topped with mafia owners, topped off with whatever else you could think of, just kind of all blended together into George Clooney's perfect friggin' storm. And the riots. I guess I could have said Josh Hartnett, and John C. Reilly was in it too,
And John
wasn't
C.
he?
Reilly, yes.
I love John C. Reilly so much. So 4 undercover officers, 2 men and 2 women, went into the bar early, and they were looking for anything visual in terms of evidence. Those undercover police called for backup using a payphone because 60s, and and
It was used for
employees
more
there.
than just Superman changing his clothes.
Yeah, I suppose it's just not fun to think about. I like to think about RuPaul going in there and coming out as just like all up in drag.
All up in
That's what I prefer.
fabulousness. I like that.
All up in fab. Yes. Faberman. I don't know. My intelligence is way down. So employees weren't tipped off, but there was a rumor it might happen. At 1:20 a.m., plainclothes officers and 2 patrol officers arrived at the double doors and announced that they were taking the place. And there were 205 people in the bar. Michael Fader was quoted as saying, "Things happened so fast, you kind of got caught not knowing. All of a sudden, there were police there, and we were told to all get in lines and to have our identification ready to be led out of the bar." Now, that didn't go as planned. So what they did was they'd usually line up folks, right? They'd check their IDs. They had female officers take those dressed as women to the bathroom to verify that they were women. Yep.
To verify, I bet they got a few surprises.
Yeah. Yeah. And if they did, they went to jail. That's the thing. Like, it's just, yeah. It's like things are better today, but they're not, because what states are passing the whole anti-drag bills, right?
Except for, I think it was Tennessee, just got shut down and said it was unconstitutional.
Good. Tennessee is on my shit list right now.
Oh, they're trying to become Florida.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. If the past like 2 months haven't said anything, there are way too many people trying to earn the Florida award. It's not one you want. It's not the Nobel Peace Prize. Go for something else that's helpful. So those in line, those who they lined up, started refusing to present identification, and police took everyone present. Police's plan was to take everyone present to the police station. Apparently, all 204 people. They tried to. They decided that they were going to do that. Um, they separated those suspected of cross-dressing. Patrons and police said that there was just kind of an air of discomfort, and police began to assault lesbians by feeling them up inappropriately while frisking them.
That is sexual assault, people. Sorry, you have. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna just shush.
Well, no, you're right. But I mean, these are folks that they just these are folks that they just didn't think were deserved human rights, right? Um, and it's horrible. So those who weren't arrested were released, but and what would usually happen is during a raid, if they weren't arrested, if they weren't arrested and they just left, they would just go. But this time they didn't actually leave. They might have walked out of the inn, but the crowd outside started growing. And soon after, 100 to 150 people were just outside the inn, just waiting, just chilling, right? And some were from Stonewall. Some were observers that saw and were just like, we're going. Some didn't know what was up, so they're just sticking around. Um, Police pushed and kicked some patrons out of the bar, but those but the people that were released performed for the crowd, which is awesome.
That is awesome.
Truly, this is great. So they performed for the crowd. They posed. They saluted the police. They were just like mocking the police, just in a humorous way. The crowd thought it was hysterical. So of course, if they're anything like me, the crowd laughs. You think you're funny. You do more. The crowd, it's just like this circle of
It's
just happy,
encouragement.
wonderful. Yeah. And so eventually, the first wagon, because that's what they were, the first wagon arrived to take folks to jail. The crowd by then had grown to 10 times the number of people who were arrested. And when that first wagon arrived, they all got really quiet. Just really quiet. The complete opposite of what you'd think it would be.
Right.
And then, so the first wagon showed up. The second wagon was confused or was delayed by some confusion in terms of directions or something. And then, and in terms of who they arrested and loaded in, they actually loaded the mafia members in first. And then they loaded in the employees. And then all of a sudden, a bystander yelled gay power, which I think it's so interesting because nowadays somebody says something like that and you're like, well, they're trying to say something, but then you just didn't scream that, right?
Yeah.
It's just not something you said. And so that's a big move. And then all of a sudden others started singing We Shall Overcome. And the crowd basically had a really good sense of humor to everything. But like there was this wave of hostility coming in terms of how they felt about how things were going and people being treated. Overall, though, you had that good sense of humor. Then an officer shoved a person in drag, and she responded by hitting him on the head with her purse, and the crowd booed as she did it. So, I mean, I agree with that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a police officer, so you probably shouldn't do that, but also they shouldn't shove you.
But they shouldn't shove
Um,
you. Just because you're a police officer doesn't mean you have more rights than me.
oh yeah, I just saw a video today of a woman who was she was being very loud and mouthy, and she was at a hospital or something getting checked out. But she had her hands handcuffed behind her back, and she did hock a loogie at the floor and then kind of at the police officer, but she's handcuffed, and instead of the police officer trying to like rearrange or move or whatever, he like cold cocked her in the face. She's handcuffed, and he just like
that's assault. I mean, it's spit.
Oh, yeah. He's apparently been fired. So
okay.
Well, and her spitting on him could be considered assault. I think they've charged assault for that. So
depends on the state, because if they have a communicable disease or things like that.
Yeah.
But you said she spit it on the floor.
The floor, and then she kind of aimed one at him. And I get that that's frustrating, but you're in frustrating situations all the time. You're in a controlled setting. She's got her handcuffed hands, and then you're just gonna Anyway, so this is still happening. That policeman has apparently been fired. So that was quick.
Hey,
good call.
Mr. Police Officer, don't call me I'm a recruiter, but I don't help fired police officers get jobs. Sorry.
No. So somebody was quoted as saying that everyone's restless, angry, and high-spirited. No one has a slogan, no one even has an attitude, but something is brewing. You can just feel something happening. So pennies and beer bottles were thrown at the wagons. Rumors spread about patrons still being beaten in the bar. Now, I don't have anything to confirm that, but rumors get spread, right? This is Fleetwood Mac taught us about this. And so uh, a woman in handcuffs was being escorted from the door to the wagon, and she multiple times she repeatedly escaped and fought with police. She was in handcuffs and she was escaping. And but the problem was that eventually she was hit on the head with a baton after complaining that her cuffs were too tight. So it had nothing to do with the escape. She complained about the cuffs being too tight. Now, some people have named this person as Stormy DeLaverie, who was a well-known drag king, and so that happened. And then as soon as the baton hit happened, she looked at the crowd and yelled, "Why don't you guys do something?" And she was thrown back into the group, and the crowd quickly became a violent mob.
That's all it takes.
So there's your spark, right? Um, police tried. I'd pat them on the head and say it was cute, but it really wasn't even close. It truly was not at all. So this happened. More handcuffed people escaped as police left them unattended to battle the other people. The crowd tried to overturn a wagon and two police cars. The wagon got away with slashed tires, but it hustled out of there.
Probably a good idea.
It's just my favorite thing in the world. Not the violence, not that people got hurt, but just the concept of you have been so abusive towards the community,
right?
And now the community that you say are quote unquote pansies, etc., add other words to it, are kicking your ass.
Mm-hmm.
And it's my favorite thing in the world. It's not fun to have your ass kicked with heels. Just saying.
No, it's not.
So the commotion brought even more people coming in who were trying to figure out what was happening as everything was going on. And someone yelled that they raided because someone didn't pay them off. And their response was, well, let's pay them off. And so they started throwing things at police. And people were yelling things like pigs and, not my word, not my phrase, but their phrase, faggot cops. And so they were just throwing things at them, throwing things. And so they were like, all right, we'll pay them. So the police were outnumbered by like 500 to 600 people.
Nice.
It's insane.
I like it.
Yeah. And so all in all, 13 total were arrested that night. 10 police ended up having to barricade themselves in the Stonewall Inn for their own safety. And before the riot, there were no plans to do this. There was no organization.
So it just
it just happened. And so I quoted Michael Fader before, but he said, and this is a little longer, but I think it's a great description. He said, we all had a collective feeling like we'd had enough of this kind of shit. It wasn't anything tangible anybody said to anybody else. It wasn't just kind of like everything, it was just kind of like everything over the years had come to a head on that one particular night in that one particular place. And it was not an organized demonstration. Everyone in the crowd felt that we were never going to go back. It was like the last straw. It was time to reclaim something that had always been taken from us. All kinds of people, all different reasons, but mostly it was total outrage, anger, sorrow, everything combined, and everything just kind of ran its course. It was the police who were doing most of the destruction. We were really trying to get back in and break free. And we felt that we had freedom at last, or freedom to at least show that we demanded freedom. We weren't going to be walking meekly into the night and letting them shove us around. It's like standing your ground for the first time and in a really strong way, and that's what caught the police by surprise. There was something in the air, freedom a long time overdue, and we were going to fight for it. It took different forms, but the bottom line was we weren't going to go away, and we didn't. And I love that so
I like that.
Another person said it catered another explanation said it catered largely to a group of people who are not welcome in in terms of Stonewall, or cannot afford other places of like homosexual social gatherings. And so the Stonewall became home to the kids who were like in the parks, who were abandoned when they said they were gay, when they were thrown to the side. And when it was raided, those kids fought for it. That and the fact that they had nothing to lose other than the most tolerant and broad-minded gay place in town. And so they were going to fight. So um, everything that could be picked up was thrown at the building to get to the police breaking windows. The most outcast people in the gay community tossed the first items. They even uprooted a parking meter and used it as a battering ram. It's just like, I would love to see this play out as like a scene in Lord of the Rings. Truly,
like
it would make my day. They lit garbage on fire, stuffed it through broken windows. Police unholstered their pistols. Doors flew open to the bar, and it was like a real like Braveheart situation, like hold.
Wow.
And so the entire thing lasted 45 minutes. And I'm exhausted.
45 minutes.
Yeah,
That's a good amount of time.
it is. So tactical patrol force from the NYPD was called to save the police in Stonewall. Someone walking. So I just imagine this whole thing going down, and there's this person who's just walking their dog by, just like do 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 do. But they quoted this person walking their dog by that said, "I had been in enough riots to know the fun was over. The cops were totally humiliated. This never, ever happened. They were angrier than I guess they had ever been because everybody else had rioted. But the fairies were not supposed to riot. No group had ever forced cops to retreat before, so the anger was just enormous. I mean, they wanted to kill." And so things escalated. I
Yeah.
just love the concept of like, I really want to create like a music album that says fairies aren't supposed to riot, because
that is kind of, I like it.
It's merch is what it is.
It is good merch.
It's not. I mean,
we might need to make a shirt.
I know, but it's just like, welcome to the show. Like, this is what happens after so long. So a fight erupted. That tactical patrol force, TPF, tried some tactics. The crowd, their tactics ended up in the crowd forming a kick line and singing "Tarara Boom Die," which, so they sang their own lyrics to "Tarara Boom Die," and I have them here. Oh, and this is and everybody is welcome for this. We are the Stonewall girls. We wear our hair in curls. We don't wear underwear. We show our pubic hair. And so that's that kick line. I love it. I just love it so much.
Just almost visualize the police officer's face. They're like,
true.
I mean,
it's so true.
Oh my God, I love that.
And so another quote from somebody was, "I just can't get that one sight out of my mind. The cops with the nightsticks and the kick line on the other side. It was the most amazing thing." And all of a sudden, the kick line, which I guess was a spoof on the machismo, I think that's when I basically felt rage, because people were getting smashed with bats, and for what? A kick line. So, they're creating this like not on purpose, but they've created this like totally innocuous neutral action, which then was being met with violence. And so it was like, I mean, if you're going to get violent over that, then I guess it's time to hit back. So the riots went into the early morning, and there was basically a continuous pushback on the police. They just pushed them back, shoved them back, way back.
Push them back, way
back. And on top of that, the police were chasing ghosts. They would chase someone, and then that same person would appear somewhere else, having gone through an alley and stuff. It was very Scooby-Doo, like Reggie. Yeah, like zoinks. And so the mob stopped cars. They overturned one to block Christopher Street from the police. They chased police for blocks, screaming, "Catch them!" The riot nearly ended around 4 a.m. And it was eerie because once it ended, like, it just kind of got quiet, but there was still this feeling of electricity and energy. And that was the first night.
Oh, it's more than one night?
Yeah, I don't know why I thought it was always one night.
Okay.
The second night, the description isn't as long, but so the between the first and second night, the New York Times, the New York Post, the Daily News covered the riots, which made it spread like wildfire. And so people came in to stare at the Stonewall, basically to stare at the Stonewall Inn. They came to look at it. And graffiti showed up and it said drag power. They invaded our rights, support gay power, legalize gay bars. And so all of this was just building. And the next night, rioting began around Christopher Street again. And I think one of the things that was so remarkable about the riots wasn't exactly the work they gave to police, because believe me, they gave them a hard time, but it was the fact that there were now open acts of homosexuality on the streets. And so,
People were just, I went and pulled up some pictures,
oh, did you?
and
Yeah.
they are actually like holding hands,
Hmm.
kissing, and one has a
Yep.
sign that says drag it out in the open.
I like that. I don't think I saw that sign, but it goes with this quote. And it said, from going to places where you had to knock on the door and speak to someone through a peephole in order to get in, we were just out. We were in the streets. And I think that's awesome. And honestly, it just makes me want to cry now. And I'm not going to do it,
Drag it out
but
in
I
the
want
open.
to. Like my entire body just like got, I wrote not the quote, but I wrote the script and like I just got goosebumps. So thousands gathered in front of the Stonewall, which opened again. They surrounded cars driving through, and they wouldn't let cars drive through unless they admitted that they were gay or said that they supported the movement. You got options. You're gay or you support the movement. Which one is it?
And I'm looking at another sign that says homo is healthy. I'm like, I'm not sure. That's their word, their sign.
Well, I mean,
There's a lot of people there.
yeah,
And this is on night
yeah.
2 that you just talked about on Christopher Street. There's a lot of people there.
And so more than 100 police were present from 4 different precincts, and they arrested the demonstrators eventually, some of them, but each time the crowd would surge. So, okay, so here's what happened. They would arrest or go to arrest, and then the crowd would surge to then pull those people back. So it's like this ebb and flow, right?
Yeah, like we thought we arrested them, but they got pulled back and they're back.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's
I
the most
like
organized thing I've
that.
ever read about. But as like the night previous, this riot would go until 4 a.m. as well. Now, the riots continued for 6 days total, and they were marked by clashes between protesters and police. It was the first to get major media coverage. The protests were led by members of the LGBTQ plus community, including Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera. These protests were a pivotal moment in history as they demonstrated that the community was no longer willing to accept mistreatment and discrimination. Now, in terms of just a brief talk about the aftermath and then this conclusion, we'll wrap it up. But the Stonewall riots had a lasting impact on the community. They sparked a movement for rights and paved the way for future activism. The first Pride Parade was held in New York City on the anniversary of the riots a year later in 1970, and Pride parades and festivals have since become a global phenomenon. The Stonewall Inn has also become a symbol of the LGBTQ plus rights movement and is now a National Historic Landmark, which is awesome. So those who were moved by the rebellion started to attend organized meetings. Lily Vincennes said, it was clear that things were changing. People who had felt oppressed now felt empowered. And it's mentioned that Pride parades came out of the holiday called Christopher Street Liberation Day, which is June 28th. And like I said, it started in 1970, a year after the riots. In recognition of this, gay pride marches were also included. These happened simultaneously in LA and Chicago. These were the first gay pride marches in U.S. history. And the next year, the marches took place in Boston, Dallas, Milwaukee, London, Paris, West Berlin, and Stockholm.
In 1970?
I think
71?
it was 1971. Yeah,
Okay.
71. The march in New York covered 51 blocks from Christopher Street to Central Park. Overall, reporting was positive on the event. And there was also an increase in gay groups as well. By the time of the riots, there were about 50 to 60 in the country, and by the next year, there were at least 1,500. And 2 years later, there were 25,000. Yeah.
I mean, if that doesn't tell you something.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So, bottom line is the Stonewall riots were a pivotal moment for LGBTQIA plus history, and they represented a turning point in the fight for rights and paved the way for future activism. The protest demonstrated that the community was no longer willing to accept mistreatment and discrimination, and while there is still much work to be done, the Stonewall riots serve as a reminder of the progress that has been made and the work that still needs to be done to ensure that everyone's treated with dignity and respect, regardless of their sexual orientation, gender identity, or anything else. And so that's the Stonewall riots. Ooh,
I did not know all of that.
I didn't either until I started reading.
Guys, and that is less than 30 days before the day I was born, because I was born in 1970 in July. So all of that happened in 1970 in June, right before I was born. But I have to tell you, had never even heard the riots till probably 10 years ago.
Well, and I'm sure that like the New York Times, the New York Post, the Voice, I know that they covered it, but you know, I would imagine that different locations in different states either carried the story or didn't.
You know
Um,
where I live, right?
well, yes, but like also no social media, so there's
That's
no
true.
mass broadcasting. So, it's a
That's
very
true.
I even in the city, you had, Queens and Brooklyn and like Greenwich, the Village, and
Hmm.
and they were like their own bubble,
Right.
and unless you walked to the next place or drove to the next place, you weren't getting news from the next
You didn't
place.
know. I
Your
forget that.
neighborhoods were your tribes of people. And yeah, so it would have been interesting to see what would have happened if there was social media. That would have been
Oh,
fascinating.
oh,
Um,
yeah.
but I have a feeling there would be a lot of police arrested.
Oh, definite. Well,
Well, we both
yeah.
said well at the same time.
Yeah. Mhm. Now, and I'm
Uh,
going to say there's good people and bad people in every
mhm,
profession,
it's true.
because there's good people in the community and there's not so good people in community. So,
Yeah, it's I know it's a touchy subject with everybody, but I mean, the thought of somebody complaining that their handcuffs were too tight and then you just bash them over the head with a baton,
yeah, I mean,
like, just doesn't need to be done.
his handsome hubby doesn't do that when I tell him he's got my handcuffs too tight.
No, he just tightens them more.
He doesn't just clock me one.
He's like, "Thank you, sir. Can I have another click?"
Well, so I'll be honest, I always thought there was a movie with Sean Penn.
Harvey Milk.
Yes.
Yeah.
I, for some reason, in my uneducated self, thought that was the first big uprising.
Um. So Milk
What
was.
year was Milk? Because I'm not good with dates or math.
So he was elected. No, it was earlier than Stonewall.
Okay,
Harvey
so it
Milk.
was. Okay.
His years of service were 51 to 55.
Okay.
Um, he was he was in the Democratic political party, but he also had a Republican political party affiliation as well. I'm not quite sure. I mean, but like y'all,
Okay.
the political parties are not the same as they used to
So
be.
getting the thing in my brain, that's open.
Yeah.
No, that is fascinating. And I'm going to tell you, some of these pictures are fascinating. And tonight I'm going to be on my tablet in bed and I'm going to be doing some look-sees.
Some looksies.
Some look-sees. Well, I'm going to just tell you
Yeah.
your case is much more inspiring than mine.
No, no, no.
My case is
No.
not inspiring.
Well, I mean, I think we had talked about doing that where I would just kind of do kind of a
No,
generalish
and I
type
love,
thing.
yeah, I love it because the more I get into my case and the more research and the more shit I read, the madder I get.
Well, while it's while it's good to cover the positive stuff, we also have to realize that we can grow from the negative too.
We
And
can.
so it's yeah.
And I also am trying to remind myself. So probably everybody's going, what case is she going to cover that she's got all of these feelings about? I'm going to say, before I tell you the case, I keep trying to remind myself something was obviously going on in this person's life and he needed some help. And his cry for help, I'm not quite sure if it was a cry for help or cry for attention.
Yeah.
But to do what he did, I think something mentally was going on.
Okay.
Something. So, in case you're wondering, I am covering everyone's least favorite actor from Empire, Jussie Smollett.
Oh yeah. I totally blanked on what you were doing. Um oh
Yeah.
boy. This fella who decided to take his acting on the in the real life
Into the real world. He was going to
didn't
do
work
some
very well.
improv with the
It
police
didn't work.
department. Well, so I always, when things happen, yes, he broke the law.
Hmm.
Yes, I think he had something else going on. I think he was seeking attention. He was feeling that he wasn't relevant. I don't know. He was feeling something that led him to these things. So I always like to go and look and not find an excuse, but find what led it up to led because
Why?
even like me and my life, I'm like, why did I keep dating that type of person? It took a little bit to figure out, yeah,
Mhm.
it's not them, it's you, because you're going after the wrong kind. So I kind of tried to go back and look at that. But interesting thing I found about Jussie was he was born in Santa Rosa to his
Mhm.
parents.
I
And
hope
I
so.
love
I
this,
hope that was to his parents. That'd be
was to
weird.
his parents. And
I'm
his parents
sorry.
are Joel and Janet Smollett. So
Joel and
JJ.
JJ. JJ.
So, and he was the third of six siblings.
Yes.
So his mom was a homemaker. His dad was a Jewish immigrant from Russia who worked as a cable splicer. But what I found fascinating, they say he grew up, all of his siblings, they all had creative and artistic stuff. So mom really encouraged all of that. So kind of
Cool.
tells you where it was. So he started performing in the local theater productions when he was a child.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah. And he did commercials for like Coca Cola, McDonald's. He and his siblings also had a musical group called the Smollett Family.
I was literally about to ask, like, his parents weren't like the Jackson Five's parents, were they?
Nowhere
No.
did I
Okay.
find, didn't have crazy, parents, but they released an album in 1993 called Family Matters.
Copyright infringement. Urkel is gonna sue their ass.
I'm like, okay. So did all that. But then he graduated high school and he said, I am taking this show on the road and I am headed to LA.
Hollywood. Da, 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 da,
So
da.
I had never heard of this series. Maybe
Mhm.
you have. He landed his first TV role was On Our Own,
Yep. Nope.
and it starred him and his siblings.
What? Really? Huh.
He was also in The
Interesting.
Mighty Ducks.
Who did he play in the Mighty
I
Ducks?
don't know.
Hold on.
He was on North as well. He worked in that film, and then he guest starred on a couple of TV shows. Revenge. What?
I know who that kid is. He was in Mighty Ducks 2? 1? 2. I think 2. Yeah, he played this really young kid who ended up being on the ice. He was very good, and he had an older brother. I think his older brother was played by Keenan Thompson,
Oh,
actually. And so, yeah, I think that's him. Anyways, that's fascinating. I didn't realize that was him.
but he was also on Revenge.
Revenge.
I loved
I
Revenge.
I don't know Revenge.
Oh, give it a goog. It was a good one.
Give it a
Give
go.
it a goog. So he, he's a good looking guy. So he was successful in 2015. He landed the role of Jamal Lyon on the hit show Empire,
Hmm.
which I don't think there's any rock in the US that you could live under and not have seen a commercial when that show came out. I
Oh yeah.
remember at one point I was like, okay, I get it. There's an empire.
Yeah,
I get
right.
it.
Right.
Based on the music industry, mogul, the typical stuff.
Yeah.
So during his time on Empire, he actually came out in as gay in an interview with Ellen DeGeneres.
Oh wow. Fascinating. It's an
Yeah.
interesting
So in
choice.
2015, he
But
came out as gay. And he became a huge advocate for the LGBTQ plus community. And I'm about to sneeze again. I'm going to just
Gesundheit.
thank you.
Hmm.
But so he became a big advocate. He also spoke out about the issues of police brutality and racism, particularly, the deaths happened with Michael Brown and Eric Garner. So he became
Yeah.
a really big thing. But
Yeah.
mind you, he landed the role in 2015. He came
Right.
out in 2015. By 2019, he basically blew up his career.
Oh,
So there's a lot of different articles you can read out there about why he potentially did it.
yeah.
Wasn't getting as much billing time. He wasn't on camera as much. He wasn't getting as many calls and stuff since he came out in 2015. So 2019, he decides to report to the police in Chicago that he was a victim of a hate crime. He claimed that two men attacked him in Chicago, shouting racist and homophobic slurs, and they put a noose around his neck and poured a chemical substance on him. Guys, that I will never forget reading because I read the news every morning on my phone. I was like, oh my God, that is horrific. That is
Yeah, that's
awful that
bad.
somebody did this to him.
Right.
I was appalled. I mean,
Hmm.
so many celebrities and politicians were all coming out saying that is not right. You need to not, it's not acceptable. The Chicago police and the FBI got involved into it because they're like, we need to investigate. This cannot happen. Chicago's already got enough problems. You
Yeah.
can't have this happening, right?
Right. Right. I mean, they got the Cubs. It's enough.
See, thank you. Well, but I will tell you, the police started investigating and the FBI, they instantly started saying something doesn't pass the sniff test because there just were a lot of inconsistencies and
Yeah.
it just didn't make sense
Y-
to them.
Can, can you imagine being the police chief being told, "Hey, we don't think this actually happened," but also being in the culture that you're in today? So it's like we can't say it didn't happen unless we actually know it didn't happen,
Right.
because that would be horrible to deny. Oof.
Yeah. But then they were like, yeah, he's not, doesn't seem to be cooperating as much with this. His phone records were in question. But just, it was like a month later, they announced that they had identified the two suspects in the case, and they were brothers, Abel and Ola. And I am just not even going to try to pronounce their last name, but it starts with an O.
It starts with a no.
It's like Osundero.
Like, oh hell no. That sounded right though.
Did
What you
I?
just how you just said
Okay.
that. Yeah.
But they were taken into custody. And lo and behold, Katie barred the door. It was revealed they had previously worked as extras on the TV show Empire.
Interesting. Systemic racism and homophobia in the entertainment business. Say it ain't so. Except it ain't so.
It ain't
So
so. Well, they were eventually released without charges. Okay. And they kept investigating. Mind you, that was in February. Come March, they indicted Jussie on
they talked.
16 felony counts of disorderly conduct for filing a
Wow.
false police report. The charges carried a potential up to 3 years in prison and a $25,000 fine. But guess what? It gets more wackadoodle
Oh boy.
because Jussie went on every platform that would have him screaming, "This happened to me. I did not fake this. I did not set this up. I was targeted because I am a gay Black man."
Effectively setting gay Black men back.
And that's what I said. I mean, something had to be going on
Yeah.
in his brain because this blew up his career.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
for sure.
there's one thing of staging that you're dating someone or, fake relationship or something. This is a huge problem because if you cry wolf, the next person it really happens to in Chicago, they're going to be like, yeah, nope, that didn't really happen. I mean, it's
Yep.
Chicago.
Yep.
So, but needless to say, this was a highly controversial case. You know, there were people that, because like I said, not only are you talking a gay man, you're talking a Black gay man who
Yeah.
comes out on one of the most popular TV shows. And within 4 years, he's doing this. So
He
in
he
March,
he
what?
he should have just called Ted Kaczynski. They both would have felt appreciated.
And they
And then,
exactly that.
you know,
Why didn't he just call you and ask for that
all I'm
advice?
saying, just call me. Just call me.
Well,
Anybody in the entertainment business, call me,
just
please.
call me,
God.
please. Well, it's going to get more wackadoodle because it is, like I said, Chicago. So in
hmm
March, Cook County State's attorney dropped the charges against Jussie Smollett
Okay.
because he agreed to perform 16 hours community service and to forfeit his $10,000 bond.
Is that 1 hour per federal or per federal
Yep.
like
Yep.
felony or whatever?
You did math. Well, not real. Yeah,
Well,
kind of, but yeah.
I can't typically math, but I'll take it. I'll take it today.
So a lot of people, they were like, y'all are giving him preferential treatment. Why? Yada, yada, yada. First of all, $10,000. That's it. You're going to keep his bond. Don't they keep that anyway?
Like, did
Or
you
do you
not
get it
see the
back?
paychecks on Empire? And then also the royalties if his agent was good
if
that he's
this,
gonna get.
well, the city of Chicago decided to step up and they said, this is not happening. They filed a lawsuit against Smollett for $130,000 for the cost of the investigating the hoax. He then filed a countersuit against them saying, I was the victim of a mass public ridicule.
Boy, we moved on real fast from the whole like, you know, hateful, bashing. He just went straight on to the next thing
Well,
because the first one didn't work.
that's not where it ended.
Oh
So
God.
then in February of 2020, a grand jury indicted him on 6 counts of disorderly conduct again for filing a false police report. And I just have to say, how is that disorderly conduct? Disorderly conduct, you drink too much, you fall down, or you're making an ass of yourself. How is it disorderly to file a fake report?
It's
Isn't that more
probably
like
one of the
fraud?
yeah, I mean it's probably under one of those, you know, series of definitions that are way too flippin' old.
So if there's any attorneys in Chicago who want to at me, I will please take the education because I don't get it. It's not disorderly. But anyway, So he pled not guilty, excuse me, to all of the charges. So he wound up being convicted of 5 felony
Yeah.
counts.
I mean,
He
yeah,
was
that sounds
sentenced
about right.
to 150 days in county jail, 2.5 years of probation, in order to pay 120,000 in restitution and 25,000 in fines. So basically, a slap on the wrist for crying wolf in destroying. It's just like with a rape victim. Rape victims are scared to go forward because they're not going to be believed. He
Right.
has now set up the next gay Black man to not be taken seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the lying sucks, and the whole trial thing sucks. The plea sucks. But what really sucks is that the lasting impact that it has, and not only that, but it branches out. It creates a web of
It
just,
does.
yeah.
So now he was released on bond pending his appeal. Mind you, 150 days. If you are found guilty, wouldn't you just bite the bullet and serve? So 150 days, county jail, your own nice little thing. You're not in gin pop. You
Hmm.
can drop your soap all you want. There's nobody there beating you up. You're in
Right.
like a protective custody. Why not? Your career's over. Why not put the narcissism stick down and own up to the
Because,
fact that you screwed up?
well, you're assuming he's holding the stick. It's just so far up.
Oh, you're true. You are
I
right.
don't know.
Well,
It.
they filed opening arguments for the appeal March 2nd of this year.
Hmm.
Now, he has not done any acting since he was arrested, but he announced his directorial debut with the film B-Boy Blues.
All right.
So now, like I said, I think he should just own up to it because I know Hollywood can forgive a lot.
Hmm.
Let's just be honest, they can. But by filing an appeal and continuing to say that the attack happened, that I think this narcissistic asshole needs to get some help
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that is that really the hill you want to die on?
Apparently for him, it's just, yeah, mm, I
So
don't understand, but
I don't think he's going to get anywhere with his appeal. The two brothers just this month started kind of a road tour of telling their
hmm.
side of what happened. So they basically, there's plenty of evidence, lock, stock, barrel, it was a setup.
Yeah.
He did, I mean, he took his acting to the streets, literally.
Except he wasn't very bright,
Right. So
ultimately.
I don't know if he's going to win his appeal. We're going to have to wait to find out. I think his career in Hollywood's over. What
Yep.
do you think? I mean,
Oh
we
yeah.
can forgive
Well,
affairs, mistresses, illegitimate kids, drug addiction, even murder has been forgiven.
um, I don't know. Hollywood is plagued by two things. One, like a what is it? It's like a bounce back story. They're really into
Oh, they're
that.
into those comebacks.
The comebacks, yeah. But
But will the audience, will the general public? Because I have to tell you, unless he comes out and says, I lied, I don't know why I did it. I did it. I need to go figure out what's wrong with me. I will
mhm,
never pay a dime to watch anything he's in or he directs because he set this community back so
yeah,
far
yeah,
that it would take a lot. And that was 2019. We're in 2023 and he is still not owning it. That's like saying, telling your wife, no, I did not have an affair with that woman. Why does this DNA test on her baby say it's yours? I don't know. but it's not mine. There comes a point in time, you just got to stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is my case. And I don't like it, and I don't like him.
Yeah, I don't like the end result of all of that. It's very, very frustrating. And I know that like I know the general frustrations, but adding that on top of it, especially anybody who's in Chicago or the surrounding area, it's just not good.
So I will say, if you want to go out there and do some research on what his family say. So
Mhm.
one of six, some think he's innocent. Some think he needs to own up to being a liar.
Yeah. Yeah.
So can you imagine Thanksgiving Day? I mean, I just want to be a
No.
fly.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be a fly. I'll be a fly. Maybe a gnat. I really don't want to be seen. Yeah.
Just want to be a gnat. So
So,
that was a little dark for Pride Month. It's not all
yeah.
rainbows and pride parades and
No.
dancing and singing. But I keep going back to, is there something inside of him that was scared coming out, couldn't come out to his family when he was young? I couldn't find any of that information.
Yeah.
Was he needed something? He did this because he needed to feel something. Something was missing, whether it be more career opportunities, more paychecks, more love in his heart. I would love to know what his end game was.
We don't have
Jussie, if
one.
you would love to come and tell me your end game at me, I would be more than happy to hear. And if you want to educate me, I would love to know, because I just don't understand. Because I have a gay son. I have to tell you, if this was my son, we would be sitting down and having a heart to heart.
Oh,
And I would
yeah,
be like,
absolutely.
dude, what were you thinking? Why? We need to get you help.
Yeah. I mean, it's do you really care about this community?
Right. Because you were
Like,
an
do you
advocate. I mean, just,
right.
do I think
I
it
wonder
blew
if
up bigger than he thought it was? Absolutely. But you're on the top billing show on
yeah.
Fox. The only other top
Yep.
show was Fox News, I think.
Yeah. I don't know.
So
That's so
that's my,
silly.
that's it. That's all I got.
Well, I mean, the interesting thing is like I covered a case where it kind of propelled change to happen, and then your case put us back at neutral. I mean, it's just
It
there's a little
is.
bit of everything.
But you expect somebody not in the community and not part of the community to take it backwards.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And I have one last thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
Handsome hubby, you can delete this if you would like, but don't you dare. Guys, just go buy Bud Light and shop at Target, please. Just
Yeah.
please.
Nobody is forcing anybody. Nobody is forcing anything down your throats. And if you think that they are, you are insecure enough to believe that it's that insecure and narcissistic enough to think that it's all about you. And it has nothing to do with you at all.
I saw a
And
tweet that the guy said, yeah, I can no longer drink my favorite beer, Bud Light, because now everybody thinks I'm gay. Dude, your drink choice does not make you gay,
mm-mm.
because
No,
I like
no.
Bud Light and I'm not gay.
It's just what's interesting is that the whole Bud Light thing happened, and then they decided that they were going to move to a different beer. And then that beer put up the website that was supporting whatever. And it's like, well, we're doing it too, guys. So good
Yeah.
luck. I saw a video of a group that put together thousands upon thousands of Bud Light and ran it over with their
Yeah.
trucks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you just, it doesn't matter. You already paid them.
Right.
They got your money.
They already
It's
got
just
your money.
so
And
dumb.
Target, I guess the thing for me, Target has been having their gay pride celebration section every year for the last years that I can remember. Why? Just because Bud Light did this. Now they literally were picketing at my Target in Austin, Texas. Guys, we're keep it weird. Why are you picketing here?
Because it's
So
just
I just need people to stop. Just stop.
I
If you like Bud Light, drink your Bud Light.
yeah.
Don't
I
try
know
to
this
take down somebody because your opinion differs.
right. I like I know this shit has been going on for much longer than what's been reported regularly now. Um, but boy, oh boy, have they gotten emboldened, brazen in terms of some of the stuff that they do. And it needs to stop. People who are quote unquote influential need to stop pushing this narrative. It is
Mhm.
just harmful,
It
hurtful,
is.
and it's going to end up with people dying.
We're going to
So
have more kids not come out. And I also need DeSantis to leave my Mickey Mouse alone. Okay, dude? Just leave the
Mickey Mouse
mouse
is
alone.
handling him.
Oh, they are.
Mickey Mouse
Just
is
leave
handling
the mouse
DeSantis.
alone, dude. Because let me tell you, there's a lot of loyal Disney people.
Oh, they are losing a lot by doing this
Oh, they are.
because Disney is just like any company that Disney helps with ads or anything like that is going to come to Disney's aid. It's going to be DeSantis versus the world.
Well, I just read an
And
article
yeah.
that Disney is canceling or putting on hold all of their expansions. All of that money is going into Florida. I don't know if Florida realizes Orlando wouldn't be on the map without the mouse.
No, not at all. And this is all because Disney had control of their monorails and Disney it
They
is
have their own
the
fire department, they have their own police department, but they still pay you taxes
they're
and a
Vatican
lot of
City.
it.
I mean,
Yeah.
the deal was brokered
Uh-huh.
decades ago.
And it was
And
it was a
yeah,
win-win for both. And I'm
right.
okay with that. I think if he would have went, I mean, but it all came down to the whole gay thing, is what it is. But you know
Oh, of
what?
course.
Gay pride is happening at Disney World and Disneyland right now. And let me tell you, the flowers are stunning.
I bet they are. I
They are
bet they
going
are.
all out this year. And I know it's all a big,
Oh, for sure. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, he is just a little troll, is what
yes.
he is. He's a troll. What really pisses me off, though, too, is that his whole book ban, which he says books have been banned, they've held the books for review, but
Mhm.
they're not. No media specialist has the time to
Right.
review those books the way they want, so they're gone. And now Virginia, specifically my county, is starting to follow suit.
I saw that, but someone just opened up. I saw it, I think, on Instagram. The books that are on that list, they went and bought them in a different state. They now give you, you can come in, pick a book for free with the purchase of a cup of coffee.
I love it.
It's like back
I love it.
when my parents wanted to burn the albums because they said if you played them backwards, it played satanic worshiping or something.
Yeah.
Another one
Yep.
bites the dust is the only. I didn't listen to a lot of it because I was country girl, but yeah, I'm just like it's like that. People, do
I
we not
I
learn from our mistakes?
no. I specifically enjoy Stephen King's response to all of this, which is like, "Hey kids, I'm reading this as word for word.
Oh,
Hey kids, it's your old buddy Stephen King telling you that if they ban a book in your school, haul your ass to the nearest bookstore or library ASAP and find out what they don't want you to read."
it's true. It's
You
just
know,
like
I
when your
mean,
parents tell you, you look in that closet and you're gonna get a spanking. Honey, as soon as they're out of the house, I was looking in there at those presents. Tell me I can't have something, and guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna
oh,
have
we're
it.
gonna grab it. Oh yeah, this is this is doing nothing more than to embolden people who fight for these things.
But we're also going to have a lot of youths who we are going to need to take care of the
I
kids.
cannot wait. I cannot wait for this next big election to see just what the new voters do, because
Yeah.
they have done nothing but push them into this.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee, again, is a great example. The whole gun thing, the shooting that happened, and
Oh
then
yeah. And
the
then the rights of women and
right. I mean, the students left all of their schools, not
uh-huh.
only in that state but around
Oh,
the country.
around Texas,
It's
they
just
what they did here at one school, I believe it was Austin, it may have been Dallas. They failed all of the students who walked out and are making them retake that period in summer school. Now it's been petitioned, and I think they backed up and they said, okay, we just threatened it. As a parent, I've learned don't threaten if you're not willing to go through with it.
yeah,
It
yeah.
doesn't
If
work out well.
if you're not
Trust me,
comfortable, yeah, don't do it. Yeah, just
it doesn't
don't do
work
it.
out. So
Yeah,
it
I
will
don't
be
know.
interesting. But I will tell you, I think everybody just needs to, if you love somebody, love them as long as it's legal
Yep,
and they're over 18 and consenting. Until
it's just
next time.
yep.
Next time,
Yep.
we are going for something not as heavy.
No,
I've already
no.
written my case. It's
Rah
dark.
rah rah boom
It's
day.
dark, but it's not heavy.
Uh, it ain't heavy. It's true crime and wine time.
It is. Stay safe, watch out for crime, and enjoy your wine time. Doodles.
Bye. Bye, guys.